Hi, this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the new moon on July the 31st, the second one of the month. The first one obviously was the solar eclipse. It's aligned with fixed star Praesepe in the beehive. It's conjunct Venus and square Uranus. The tarot card will be the Five of Wands, and the healing crystal will be the pink carnelian, and I'll talk about all those later on. But because it's in decan 1, Leo decan 1, it carries with it a theme of ancestral connections. The moon doesn't really have any special power in this decan though, but it does rather well in acquiring material wealth. This may be through material inheritance or through an inherited character, trait or talent. Whatever the case, family, loyalty and values are tested at this time, as is the importance of passing something of value down to one's descendants. One problem at this new moon may be pressure to identify strongly with the family clan. Now, the hive mind exists among family members, which will literally be buzzing on overdrive, especially since the new moon is aligned with the fixed star Praesepe, which the Chinese associate with the spirit of the ancestors. Breaking out of any undesirable infantile behavior patterns will be hard work at this time. But on the positive side, a new moon in this decan has an almost religious reverence towards the older generations. Now, this ancestral connection brings our spirit guides closer to us. It's comforting to feel that somebody has your back, and this gives one greater confidence as well. The negative side of this new moon could dredge out all the nasty family skeletons and ignite some bitter family feuds as well. But on the positive side, this could be an amazing time to find and reconnect with long lost and missing members of your clan. So the stars of constellation Cancer are all quite dim, but the star cluster Praesepe in the heart of the crab is a striking feature. It's known as the beehive cluster, as I said, because it contains a swarm of 40 plus stars, which are visible to the naked eye as a dust cloud. Praesepe also means crib, stable or enclosure. So Robson says this might be the origin, as seen in nativity pictures of the birth of Christ, of the positioning of a donkey always behind the manger. This constellation is thought to be the gate of men, so this interpretation as being the cluster, as this cluster being the birthplace of Christ, fits very well. There are some incredibly negative interpretations for this sacred birthing place, however. Now, the early 20th century astrologers seem to focus on the grasping, sideways, shifty gait of the crab, and the fact that it's a mere animal as well. As usual, anything with a spiritual connection seems to bring in addiction problems too. So Epstein says of the crustacean, one can observe a craving for an abuse of stimulants, luxury foodstuffs, narcotics, drugs and heavy smoking, while Robson maintains Praesepe causes disease, disgrace, adventure, insolence, wantonness, brutality and blindness. But Robson doesn't forget the busy beehive connection, so he adds that it gives industry, order and fecundity and makes its natives fortunate, though liable to loss through others and the founders of large businesses as well. Robson brands anyone with the sun at Praesepe as having evil disposition, murderer or murdered, blows, stabs, which is operations nowadays, serious accidents, shooting, execution, banishment and imprisonment. So that's lovely, isn't it? Since Praesepe is a nebula, then we must give it a very tight orb, and remember there's always a high vibration alternative as well. So, you know, if you have this in your chart, don't get freaked out about it. You know, as I said, there's good sides and bad sides in every star, and you know, this is the gate of men as well. So what I think with these nebulas, this kind of blindness, it can also be the ability to see in other dimensions, and it has a kind of inner vision as well. And remember, in ancient times, blindness could be short-sightedness, which would have been a real handicap before the invention of glasses. So, you know, that's why it's got such a negative connotation. There's also an interesting interpretation for both the beehive and the asses from Epstein. And he says the Chinese give this group of stars the name the spirits of the ancestors, and were of opinion that if it was conjunct the moon, which it is, they would have peculiar experiences in the realm of the dead. So we could experience some contact from other dimensions at this time. Because it's conjunct Venus, generally this aspect doesn't have to make a great deal of effort to get the good life, attract good fortune, and be at the right place at the right time. So it's a kind of easy aspect as well. But then you have the moon square Uranus, which finds it hard to put down roots. This may come as an experience of early childhood trauma or premature expulsion from the warm, cozy womb, literally or metaphorically. So I think we'll talk about that later when I do my rant bit. Venus square Uranus, which is quite a big aspect for this new moon, is magnetic and has great sparkle. So at this new moon, we will need an inordinate amount of space and freedom in our relationships. And this aspect loves pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable in romantic unions as well. And the same radical approach is seen in artists popular at this new moon, as they will be constantly changing and reinventing perception. So the tarot card for this new moon is also quite radical. It's got a bit of a Uranus energy as well. So Teach Me Tarot says that the Five of Wands tears up the rule books and begins to write its own. Its energy explodes, the wands splitting in several directions at once. It is unclear what is happening and where it all will end. Drama, mayhem, and chaos will rule the day. Expect the unexpected, for that is the only thing that can be relied upon. Fire likes to travel and expand. It does not like to be held back or restricted. This is a positive, forward-flowing energy and thrives on momentum and enthusiasm. So you can clearly see the dramatic and boisterous energy of Leo depicted in this card, and the competitiveness and struggle of the Saturn that rules this decan is also evident as well. So I picked the pink carnelian as the healing crystal because it's really great for healing conflict between family members, and this is a moon all about the family, really. It's also a nice calming stone in the face of all this very wired urinary all right, Uranian energy. Okay, the color varies from a deep red orange to a light salmon pink. The deeper the red, the more fiery and passionate it will be and have more of a Mars energy. However, for our purposes, I think we should just go with the pink version, which is more sort of feminine and calming. Now, the name carnelian comes from the Latin flesh, hence the word carnal, and carne in Italian is meat as well. So moon conjunct Venus is definitely very fleshy, the aspect for this moon as well. So it will help ground our body if we're dealing with this very electric Uranian square energy. I have to shut this window. So Judy Hall with the Crystal Bible says that carnelian is a stabilizing crystal, perfect for anchoring in the present. Its high energy helps restore lost vitality and motivation and stimulates creativity for new pursuits. It improves concentration and removes extraneous thoughts in daydreamers and during meditation. It also protects against envy, rage, and resentment, yours or from others, and encourages a love of life. It's useful for overcoming abuse of any kind, helping you to trust yourself and your perceptions. So yeah, a lot of the quotes for carnelian, they all mention overcoming abuse, helping trusting yourself and your perceptions, and overcoming negative conditioning, and encouraging steadfastness as well. It calms anger, banishes emotional negativity, and replaces it with the love of life. So yeah, it's all about transmuting kind of anger, I mean, and overcoming the carnal as well. So there you go. So what am I going to talk about now? At the moment, we're still in the aftermath. It's July the 9th. So it's the aftermath of the Jeffrey Epstein. I get them all confused. Case. And when I did the post on it, I didn't really, I mean, I knew of what was going on and I knew it was a sex trafficking thing and I just knew about Lolita Island, but I only sort of had the gist of it. I didn't really know exactly what he was being charged for. But now I do know a little bit more about it. And I just wanted to look at his chart straight away. I just wanted to get it out there. But today I listened to Stefan Molyneux's, he was reading out the charges and things like that and giving a bit more of the background because I haven't got time to research it all. I wanted just to look at the astrology side. But it did occur to me because some of the responses on the video after I posted it, there's always going to be nice comments, but then there's always the well, I don't want to call them trolls, but I do wonder why they listen to me, because they know by now, surely they know by now that I'm not, well, they should know my sort of where I lean towards. But they say things like, you might want to read this and you might want to hear about these things that they've said about Trump and blah, blah, blah. And what about this person? And what about, because I assume that Epstein is on the left. So they always have to bring out somebody on the right who they think is just as bad, or to even it up so that it doesn't look as bad for the left. But it doesn't, what's the point in that? I'm looking, it's gaslighting. It's gaslighting because I'm talking about these girls being abused. And so why are we, and I'm talking about Epstein. I'm not talking about anyone else. So why is it when you talk about him, I'm focusing on him, his astrology, and the fact girls are being abused? It just seems a bit weird that people do that. So anyway, and I just want to say, yes, because I was like, oh, you brought Trump into it. I mentioned him once in context with compare him to Clinton because he went on the plane 26 times, and it was 1 second out of 30 looking at Epstein. So what I didn't talk about, I didn't mention Trump for the whole, it was just in passing. So to bring that just because I mentioned it once in 1 second, to then make a comment that only focuses on Trump on a video that was for 30 minutes talking about the astrology of Epstein and Pluto and the whole concept of abducting girls and what's creepy about it, is so gaslighty. I cannot understand why people would do that. Well, I kind of do understand why people would do that. It's called gaslighting, yeah. So I'm just, and also it's just very disrespectful to the girls that have been abused in all this to use it to make political points. That's kind of what my point was, is that you read about Epstein and you see what he's done and you think, bloody hell, these poor girls. And then people bring in other things, like on the Wikipedia, why bring in Trump? Why? It's nothing to do with it. We're looking at Epstein. And it's the same like when on Facebook somebody wrote a really long comment all about the Catholic Church and paedophile priests. Yeah, okay, but we're talking about Epstein. I know that all other things go on, but it's disrespectful to the girls who are abused in this case. Just like recently a really awful thing happened in, I'm not sure where, it's up north. A Somali girl was bullied and thrown into a canal or a river, and she drowned. Really sad. And but no one's gonna. And then, you know, obviously there's been, was it a racial attack? Was it racially motivated? They don't even know the race of the people that pushed her in. I mean, I actually saw the names, and one of them didn't look very English to me. But anyway, so they're already saying you know, they're already moulding into sort of race baiting and that kind of thing. And then I just thought, but no, if you, nobody would take away from that by saying, oh, but there was also, I mean, this is true as well. The school sounded awful, by the way. It sounded terrible. And there was also bullying of a teacher, and she committed suicide. And this teacher was white. But no one's going to go on to comment on that news and say, oh yes, but you also have to look at this teacher who also was bullied at this school and she was white. No, we're not looking at that teacher. I mean, as sad as that is as well, we're looking at the Somali girl. So it's just really weird how whenever you put a post up and it goes against the narrative of somebody who's on the other side, they always think it's appropriate to gaslight it by not looking at this case. We're looking at this case at this time, and there's plenty of other examinations of those other cases at that time, you know, and there's plenty, you know, no one goes to when we talk about paedophile priests and says, oh, but look at Hollywood. Maybe they do, I don't know, and maybe they should. But anyway, I just think it's a weird thing that happens. So that's kind of my rant for the day. But it's a hive mind thing. That's why I wanted to sort of relate it to this new moon, because it is a hive mind. It's like, if you don't, all right, if you're a right-leaning person, you have to only stick up for right-leaning politicians. And I don't. I just don't hate Trump. I don't think he's great. I just don't hate him. He doesn't bother me that way. And if we're going to talk about womanizing politicians, well, JFK was another one, and he was a lot of people's hero too. And he was Democrat. I like JFK. You know, I think he was a good guy, but he had his weaknesses too. He used to like women. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's any talk of him liking underage girls. But you know, he was another womanizer. Powerful men can get women. They just can. It's as old as time. No one seems to be criticizing Kennedy for that. I'm a floating voter. I've said this so many times, I've come from the left and I've seen all the left perspectives, but how many people who criticize, saying, oh, you should look at this, can say that they've come from the right and have changed their mind and gone to the left? Does that happen? Do people come from the right and then go to the left? It just seems to be the other way around. So then you can't really say that you're well-rounded. I mean, I can honestly say that I like people from the left and the right. I just do. I consider there are good people on both sides and bad people on both sides. Like George Galloway, he used to be a Labour politician. Like him, he's great, and I follow him. So I follow a mix of left and right, and some of them. I don't consider myself either one really, because I do believe. Sorry, I'm going on a bit, aren't I? It's just I haven't spoken to the camera for so long. It feels like I'm sitting and talking to someone. So yeah, that brings me to the end. Hold your carnelian, and hopefully you'll have some kind of control over that side of your life. And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.